can't say that Nurgle allying with Khorne would be very, very likely. However, these two factions complement each other very, very well. So this is going to be a bit of an older replay. I genuinely was trying to get some domination matches in, but I just kept landing land battles, and the couple domination battles I did get weren't as good as they could have been. So either way, a bit of an older replay, but I just wanted to kind of show off this combo with Nurgle and Khorne. Now, I do think the combo's technically probably a little bit better if you go with Khorne and then Ogres, just because the Ogres have the firepower to blast people off of points. But the concept kind of remains the same here. So I've got 2 Soul Grinders, and this is just to barrage the enemy, take out all their infantry, deal damage to cav, whatever the heck I can get my hands on with that. And you can see they deal pretty dang meaty damage. Now, I've also got a Great Unclean One with Nurgle as his Lore of Magic. He's basically bringing in just Stream of Corruption because it's broken, and then Fleshy Abundance. He is trying to heal up the melee of Khorne as much as possible. If it goes to Bloodletters or the Exalted Bloodthirster, that's kind of the whole concept behind this. So if you were to take Ogres and Khorne, it might be a little bit better. Ogres still have a lot of healing, but they also have probably better artillery pieces. But I do think you could still do it with Khorne and Nurgle, and I think this is maybe a little more of a thematic matchup, right? It's demons versus whoever else. But for the opponent's side, we've got Scrag leading the Ogres, and then an Ice Witch with the Lore of Ice leading Kislev. So we've got... These points are not going to unlock for a little bit, but we've kind of got our positioning set up for us. Looks like Khorne, we're coming up around this end. This is me and my friend playing, by the way. He's coming about, he wants to really flank the opponent. There's a ton of Gorgers here. Man, those might need to be spread out, but they are invisible, so I can't exactly target them. We're trying to kind of keep our opponent off of their point. They're about to double down on it. They want to take their close point. We've just got a unit of Nurglings or 2 sitting on our 3rd point once these all unlock, but the main battle is just happening down here. Now here's that Stream of Corruption coming down. I actually get lucky and kind of deal a little bit of damage to the Gorgers there. Very, very negligible, though. But this fight's going pretty darn well for us. Scrag is taking a beating. He is an anti-infantry character, and so far he's just been fighting Chaos Spawn and this Great Unclean One, which is not going well for him. Here we do have these Gorgers wrapping around, though. They're going to get into the Bloodletters, and this capture weight is yet to be seen which way it's going to go. Light War Slides are going to be a big problem. Patriarch, I believe, has some healing. No? Yes. Okay, he's just got the 1 healing. He's probably there for the Light War Sleds, keeping them topped off. Bloodthirster's coming in, and he is looking for that Ice Witch. Here comes the Chunk. Let's see if he can hit her. Oh, it's just barely not close enough. He really, really wants this. Those Nurgle artillery still barraging in. Here he goes. Come on, hit it. And he went for the Light War Sleds. Anyway, as you can see, he's starting to get beat up. He's getting gooned on. Patriarch, Ice Witch, Grog, and these War Slides, a little bit more than he can probably handle. Looks like they've also debuffed him with Death Thrust, so well, it's not a debuff, but he is taking damage as well. I probably should be popping down a heal for this Bloodthirster, but did I pop a heal? Yeah, there we go. I try to keep these Bloodletters and Spawnicorn alive because we really want to take this point, and he's doing great work. This Bloodthirster is just holding the enemy. Look at the blob that he has summoned. Man, I should have brought like an explosion spell, or if we had the Sword of Khorne, if this was later in the game when we got that army ability up, because this is just a meaty blob. Looks like my artillery's running a little low on ammo. They are shooting into this blob. Oh, no, they're going for these armored Cossars. So this Bloodthirster is about to fizzle out. Now, part of the reason this matchup works so well is that you can heal the melee force of Khorne. Now, I didn't heal that Bloodthirster. It might have been worth it to heal him just to keep the enemy off the point that much longer, but this did work out. We got point 2. It kept Bloodletters and these Chaos Spawn alive, and our enemy is fighting off the point right now. They're about to shove in most of their stuff here and really try to take point 2 from us. But 3's sitting pretty. They've got their point 1 over here, and we are starting to summon some Fleshhounds, and we're about to send in our reinforcements to take point 1. These Furies are holding the enemy cav just barely within the point, but this point 1 is being contested, whereas our point 3, well, it looks like they might get contested here soon with those Light War Sleds. Point 2, however, is still holding, which is really, really good news for us. This Great Unclean One has got his, what is the damage ability called? Pestilent Decay? Yeah, so this is a Mortis Engine effect, and he is hitting so many valuable targets right now. There's a Patriarch, a Lord, Scrag that is, Snow Leopard, Gorgers galore. He is getting tons and tons of value, and he's causing terror. You just saw those Ogre Bulls terror out, which is really, really nice. And most of this whole side over here is still the enemy. I am still getting tons of barrage damage with these Soul Grinders. I don't know that they're paying for themselves, but they are surely racking up some value, which is really, really nice for me. We've got some more spawn coming in, really wanting to double down on this point 2. Our point 3 hasn't really been contested. It looks like they are bringing some armored Kossars, but a unit of Fleshhounds can just keep us well and safe on that point 3. On this side, it looks like we haven't committed much more to point 1. We're pretty good with just keeping a lot of their reinforcements over there. That's making us happy enough. And this Great Unclean One with that Mortis Engine effect is just draining the enemy. There's no way they're going to win this blob fight. I've got both Soul Grinders sitting on the edge points. This guy can probably move into melee. Yeah, he's out of ammunition, but at this point, point 2 is looking really rough for the enemy. They've got a couple more reinforcements that they're going to be bringing in. It looks like we got a Hunter and a Stonehorn back here. I feel like it might be better to bring him from this side. Maybe they weren't sure which point they had summoned. So, regardless, we're getting a good point lead, which is definitely something we want. It looks like we still haven't summoned anything on this side. It's just Fleshhounds. It is crazy how tanky Fleshhounds are. They're fighting Winged Lancers, Streltsy with armor piercing. Well, it looks like the Streltsy aren't really engaged. And a Patriarch, and they've been sitting there for a long time. Fleshhounds, I think, they need a price increase, because they do a lot more than you ever think they do. They are pretty nutty units. Looks like we got more Fleshhounds over here just to keep this point 3 extra safe. I could probably pull these Nurglings in, but they're so cheap that I felt, you know what, it's good enough to just leave them on point 3. We'll be happy with that. Ah, and look at this. The Great Unclean One had to back out of the fight. I'm pretty sure it was these light war sleds. They were just gunning this guy down constantly. You can see most of their ammunition is gone, and I'm pretty sure most of that ammunition was used on this Great Unclean One. His healing cap's coming up. But he is such a tanky boy. And boom, a big Great Maw cast right there on a group of our units. That hurts immensely, but we got some more Toads coming in, and it's really not changing it up just yet. Point 2 is still pretty securely ours. We've got these Soul Grinders, which are going to be nightmares of their own trying to get rid of. Looks like we're sending in some more Fleshhounds just to keep our enemy on their toes over here. As you can see, they've got a lot of idle units, and this is really working well for us. It seems that, for the most part, all the attention is being paid here at point 2. What reinforcements they can bring in, they're trying to fight, maybe micro a couple of these units. It looks like the Ice Witch is pretty full HP. I had lost her there for a moment. But a good old Heart of Winter would probably be really good here. Does she have that? Guardian Call. No, it doesn't look like she's got that Heart of Winter. That would have been such a good cast. I highly recommend taking Heart of Winter. Probably not in land battles, but in Domination, Heart of Winter, that spell is so good. It takes up almost an entire point in radius, so when you're losing a point like this, you can get tons and tons of value. Whereas land battle, you're not going to get nearly as big of blobs there. So it looks like the game's slowing down a little bit. Point 3 is just sitting so pretty for us. Those Fleshhounds are taking out armored Kossars quite handedly. Those are armored units, and Fleshhounds don't have... I mean, they're not primarily armor piercing, but 22 armor piercing is still really good. That's about hitting as hard as Shock Cav. I believe these Winged Lancers have 9. Yeah, they're almost like they have 30. That's ridiculous. Fleshhounds do so much damage, but I do think they have a less model count, so maybe it's worth it, maybe not. So the enemy has a ton of units sitting back here. They really need to move these up. And there's a chance that the replay might be a little bit desynced here, because it is an older one. Still, I think I'm going to continue with it just because I really like the healing combo with Khorne. You can see how insanely tough this point 2 objective was. Our opponent was throwing tons of stuff. There was like, what, 4 Gorger units? And I believe, actually, the Gorgers... Yeah, this is pre-nerf. They're at 16 entities. It shows you how old this replay is. Apologies. But the Gorgers are still pretty darn broken, and we are just holding off. We're now fighting off of the point, which is really good for us. We're keeping a couple of the low units back on the point just to make sure that it doesn't get stolen from us, and we also don't want those units to crumble out just yet. Oh, it looks like... Is that an ice sheet? Yep. Ice sheet coming down, I want to say. Either way, slowing units, not really going to be much effective. Wow, those light war sleds have capture weight. I don't think there's anything else on the point for our opponents. It looks like they're starting to contest point 2, though. Point 3 is starting to get contested. However, watch this Fleshhound unit. They're getting the charge on these Winged Lancers, and they're going to have some support from Nurglings. That fight is not going to go our opponent's way. However, they are bringing Snow Leopard, and that could definitely change things up. So we'll have to see exactly how well that fight goes. Point 2 is starting to be taken, which is not good for us. Looks like the Stonehorn finally moves in. Great Unclean One is low, but he's still got a couple tricks up his sleeve. He's going to engage on this Hunter. Hunters have really high range damage against anti-large opponents, but in melee, they're really not that good. It looks like he's getting buffed up by a couple of things, but that Hunter usually will not win melee duels, at least against other large opponents. They are anti-infantry in their melee attack, so don't throw infantry units unless you've got a lot of helps. Looks like we are finally losing this point 2. However, we've got such a high point lead that our opponents need to triple cap us. They need to get point 3, which we've been able to keep really safe this entire time. However, it looks like we're about to lose everything on this point. Man, there's some lapses on micro. I really wonder if this game's desynced. Scrag's sitting in the back here. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so we noticed that. It looks like a couple of these units are just sitting so low and ignoring it. Luckily, though, I mean, they're still getting the point. They're moving on this, and it looks like point 3 is starting to be contested, which is not good for us. If they can get point 3, we lose. We realize this. We're bringing in some fresh flesh hounds. I really ought to be summoning, like, I think the Nurglings brought here was a lost cause. There's so much to kill. There was, like, no point for me to bring these Nurglings in. It looks like I'm bringing in some Furies, too. All of this should really be coming up to point 3. I think me and my friend are still pretty new. I was playing Nurgle here, so you can tell growing pains are occurring. I'm trying to contest point 2, and that's just not smart. Look how many Nurglings I'm summoning. Man, I'm gonna be mad at myself if this loses us the game. That's just nuts. Bunch of Nurglings being summoned over here. Point 2 is being contested. It's so close. It keeps teeter-tottering back and forth, but I do believe that our opponents with these light war sleds are about to get that capture weight. This is where things get really risky. Point 1 sitting pretty for them. Point 2, at this point, is gonna go to our opponent. That Great Unclean One, 7,000 damage in his lifespan. He was an absolute monster, but he's about to finally die. He's been tick damaging all of these units down. I'm streaming in Nurglings like an utter idiot. I just need to be Helm's Deeping this single point, and I think that loses us the game here. Let's fast forward a little bit, because the opponents are about to take this away. We just need 250 more cap. I'm so mad. Now I finally see the light. I'm moving the Nurglings in onto point 3, but it's not going to be enough. What a misplay, moving those Nurglings over. Messy fight, but don't deserve the win on that one. The fact that I moved those Nurglings over here was such a bad play. It's really important to look at the points at the top of the screen. Once you realize you only need 1 point, you gotta stop fighting over the points that don't matter as much. There was too much for me to kill here. There was no way I was gonna outcap it with Nurgling weight. I needed to just consolidate and come defend this hill. We could have probably taken this point and defended up on the high ground. It could have won. We could have won. It could have been better. So, lesson learned. I think I've definitely improved with domination since this replay, but either way, let's go see these damage values. This Great Unclean One, this is a pretty terrible starting army. This tells you the growing pains. I think you can get away with it in a 2v2 because my ally obviously had a bit of a force as well. But it looks like that Great Unclean One, unholy damage value. 7,000 is just ridiculous. The Mortis engines are going to be so strong. I cannot wait for Game 2 when people are just spamming vampire counts. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. But it looks like these Hulks, this one I think pretty much did pay for himself. This one not so much. They got pretty much wrecked in the melee after shooting all their ammunition. But I was pretty happy with their performance. Nurglings across the line definitely didn't do too much. I should have been summoning in Forsaken. I had so many Forsaken. Wow, look at the damage on that Forsaken. I should have summoned them a million years ago, man. And all headed up to the wrong point. It's so sad. So sad. Alright, let's see. Bloodthirster, he did not get a ton of damage value, but he definitely distracted the enemy for a long time. If I had played better, I think that Bloodthirster holding point 2 for us for long enough that we could just, like, hold a single point was very valuable. So it might not show the points here, but this guy, MVP for sure. That spawn of Khorne went nuts. I did put a heal on them, and this is kind of what I wanted to showcase with Nurgle and Khorne combined, or honestly any faction with healing and Khorne combined. Khorne is so good in the melee, he can pretty much pay for himself anytime regardless, but you put healing on top of that, and his units start to perform wildly. Fleshhound's getting but tons of value. Just ludicrous. Pretty sure that's double their value there. Fleshhound's doing amazing in that one. Looks like we had a couple reserves that didn't get summoned. Bloodletters, again, tons and tons of value. Healing probably helping them out with that. These Fleshhounds, more and more value. I think the Furies did pretty decent as well. You can just kind of endlessly summon these units, so it's a pretty good tactic. For the enemy, I think the Ice Witch did a pretty good job, especially since she didn't bring like a Heart of Winter spell. Regardless, pretty dang good damage with the Ice Witch. The rest of this, not so much. Those, wow! Light War Sleds. I wonder if this is even before the Light War Sled nerf. Because, dang, that is a lot of value. It probably would have been really good for us to use a lot of those Fury units to jump on the War Sleds. Because Kislev doesn't have any air, right? So it's really hard for them to kind of stop that. Looks like the rest of this is pretty decent. Warbear Rider's getting a lot of value. That Patriarch had his heal, so he was probably helping out a bunch. Ooh, that's a good idea. Pairing a Patriarch with Khorne, that could be really, really fun. Because Patriarchs have a lot of healing. Do not underestimate their healing. Scrag pretty much paying for himself, I'm sure. All these Gorgers getting absolute ludicrous amounts of value. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is pre their nerf. So, glad the Gorgers aren't this deadly anymore. Though they might be less useful now. Probably worth it, though. Stonehorn, I mean, he only got summoned halfway through the battle. Pretty good value for him. Looks like we got some, yeah, great weapons. They did pretty good as well. All of these Ogre infantry paying pretty decently for themselves. And so that's all the values. This was, if I remember, a pretty frustrating match, actually. The fact that we lost it, all because I summoned the Nurglings in the wrong spot. But it was a good battle nonetheless, so good enough that I could cast it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Sorry that it's a later replay from way back when, but pretty soon here, I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for Immortal Empires. Once Immortal Empires drops, all my time is gonna be going in that game. I think I'll be having a lot more replays, and it seems that tip videos are doing much better on the channel, so maybe I'll kind of double down on those. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Talk to you later.